Ken Klippenstein just got banned for this on Twitter, for posting it, I mean. Behold the dossier. Oh, a dossier, you say? Yeah, he got banned according to the same rules that were used to ban people who were posting the Hunter Biden laptop story, but Elon changed those rules. See, Twitter had a policy against the publication of leaked material. It was a specific kind of deal, you know? The material that was tied to Hunter Biden and the laptop bit, that was leaked, so posting about it, you know, posting or links to it, you know, covering it, that was banned on Twitter. Then Elon took over Twitter and changed that rule because of free speech, so people could talk about the Hunter Biden laptop story. In fact, Elon changed it specifically so people could talk about the Hunter Biden laptop story. And now he's banned Ken Klippenstein for violating a rule that he changed. Be careful, the doc does have Vance's partial SSN. I know. I've already glanced through it, don't worry. What was leaked, though? Behold the dossier. It reportedly comes from an alleged Iranian government hack of the Trump campaign, and since June, the news media has been sitting on it, and other documents, declining to publish in fear of finding itself at odds with the government's campaign against foreign malign influence. I disagree. The dossier has been offered to me, and I've decided to publish it because it's of keen public interest in election season. It's a 271-page research paper the Trump campaign prepared to vet now vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance. As far as I can tell, it has been altered, but even if it was, its contents are publicly verifiable. I'll let it speak for itself. Quote, the terror regime in Iran loves the weakness and stupidity of Kamala Harris and is terrified of the strength and resolve of President Donald J. Trump, said Stephen Chung, communications director for the Trump campaign, who responded when I asked him about the hack. If the document had been hacked by some anonymous, like hacker group, the news media would have been all over it. I'm just not a believer of the news media as an arm of the government doing its work combating foreign influence, nor should it be a gatekeeper of what the public should know. I'm now the strongest soldier for Iran. I always have been. I always was. On August 19th, the U.S. intel community issued a statement on Iranian election interference, including da-di-da-di-da. Government is angry. Robert offered the document to me in an email from an AOL address. Da-da-da. Talks about political motivations and the potential threat of foreign electoral interference. This is not the Steele dossier of 2016. With its golden showers and anti-Trump fan fiction. Unlike the Steele dossier, which was both fraudulent and discredited, it's been long enough since the Steele dossier that I forget the details about it. The Vance dossier is factual and intelligently written. No Jason Bourne-style capers appear, there's no sleaze. Instead, the Vance dossier enumerates pretty reasonable liabilities as a then-contender for VP nominee, including Vance has been one of the chief obstructionists to U.S. efforts providing assistance to Ukraine. Vance criticized public health experts and elected officials for supporting BLM protests while condemning anti-lockdown protests. Vance embraced non-interventionism. In 2020, Vance criticized President Trump's airstrike killing Iranian General Qasem Soleimani, worrying it would continue to bog down America in the Middle East to the advantage of China. This sounds utterly useless. It's essentially a gigantic laundry list of J.D. Vance's liabilities as a candidate, cultivated by the Trump administration, or I guess the Trump campaign. Can you yell at American journalists for being cowards? I feel like we've hawked on that Tua quite a few times. There wasn't anything spicier from the hacks. I don't know what you want. Here's the summary of the 271-page opposition document. I mean, it's pretty much all laid out in the chapter headings. Vance was opposed to Trump's candidacy during the 2016 election, announced his intention to vote third party, was accused of effectively voting for Hillary Clinton, doubted Trump's ability to be effective in office, criticized his statement's policy proposal, said he'd be terrible for the country, compared Trump to heroin, called him like, it's quite a bit by the Trump campaign, Subs and Soda. Anyway, the impression that I get, more or less, is that J.D. Vance is just a recently radicalized weirdo alt-writer who was, like a lot of recently radicalized weirdo alt-writers, relatively recently not one of those, and was one of those, like, smarmy, you know, I agree with racists on the end point, but not on the bigotry point, kind of holier-than-thou types. I don't know how much these people exist in real life and how much of them exist on the internet, but there's this very smarmy kind of, like, intellectual pseudo-technocrat Republican. There's not many of them, mind you, who basically agree with all of the endpoints that you would get from like a far right prescription, morally speaking, but they don't agree with it in like a bigoted way because that's irrational. They agree with those outcomes in like, rational ways. The kind of guy who thinks of a racist as like a wife beating, low IQ, inbred, Appalachian hick, exactly the kind of guy you would expect JD Vance to be from Hillbilly Elegy, the kind of person who would have grown up like right wing, but then would have internalized a lot of hatred of the, dull nitwit racist that he grew up with, and would write a book like essentially making fun of them on the outside, but still while fundamentally agreeing with like a lot of their outcome positions. And then over time, he's been pushed more and more into the, the more like traditional alt-right kind of such and such. Do you get what I mean? This is the reason why Peter Thiel likes him. Peter Thiel is exactly this kind of guy. A far-right racist who mentally associates racism with like dumb white trash hicks. So their version of racism isn't like, stupid racism. Their version of racism is like intellectual racism, the cathedral. They're not like your average dumb populist racists, they're like sophisticated racists. That's kind of the angle they come at it from. It's pathetic. It's deeply self-conscious, which makes sense because both Peter Thiel and JD Vance are extremely insecure people, which is evident if you look at them for even a moment, like just talking. Like it's very obvious. You can read that off of them like a book. This 2020 article by Vance about how he stopped being an elite intellectual libertarian atheist to a smug conservative atheist supports your idea of 2020 Vance, and then of course ended up being a trat cath, as is the case for many of these people. It seems like a more inexcusable form of racism. I mean, it's basically just like a pretentious form of being a racist. There's a lot of this stuff. Vance previously heaped praise on Hillary Clinton. Vance has previously heaped praise upon Barack Obama. Vance has praised Bernie Sanders. Vance appears to have once indicated Joe Biden could have beaten Trump in 2016. Vance praised Trump's policy and was an active supporter of his 2020 re-election. So something between 2016 and 2020. Let me guess, I didn't turn off the TTS? Yeah, I'm gonna guess that's probably what happened there. I get you. You did not? I always forget. What do you mean the guy who inspired Vance, Pazelbob? I don't watch Behind the Bastards. Vance's questionable conservatism. He once admitted working-class Americans benefit from Democrat policies. He criticized Trump's core domestic policy priorities, critical of his tax cuts, expressed support for increasing capital gains tax, calls to raise taxes on U.S. businesses. Funny stuff. Do you think he sincerely switched to the right or like griftily? He was always on the right. His criticisms of Donald Trump have nothing to do with a principled opposition to reactionary politics. Rather, he thought of Donald Trump as a stupid guy for stupid racists. Not like his racism. His racism is smart and informed. In fact, it's not even racism, which is definitionally, bigoted and therefore irrational. He just has, the secret knowledge. Everything was policy wonkery up until he fell to the populism. Curtis Yarvin, that guy? Gotcha. Wait, did Vosh only spend like 3 minutes on the Elon stuff? We are talking about the dossier. That Elon would ban Ken Klippenstein for doing something that does not violate Twitter's policy but instead makes the right look bad is not at all surprising to me. Trump has flip-flopped on cuts to the federal budget. Vance has flip-flopped and cuts the federal budget. Vance has signaled support for distorting the free market with federal subsidies, questioned conservatives for prioritizing America's businesses, indicated he supported union priorities over that of American businesses, opposed right-to-work laws. My man was a damn neo-lib, policy wonk for a bit. Not really, but it's funny to say that. Good Lord, this goes on for a while. Vance has expressed controversial views concerning American universities. Ties to Alex Jones, ties to Steve Bannon. It's a whole damn thing. The document also talks about how abortion is a losing issue. It's great that they admit it. Yeah. Well, praise be to Iran for leaking this. Is it possible GOP is putting Vance up as the VP candidate as an attempt to subterfuge because leadership in the GOP aside from Trump doesn't like they can't control public? That JD Vance is there because Donald Trump Jr. pushed for him and because he's a stooge of the of Project 2025. There are a lot of intelligent right-wingers, people up on top, people who don't like democracy, people who don't want, you know, the American experiment to continue, who are aware of the fact that Donald Trump isn't smart enough to actually really bring about the downfall of democracy. Project 2025 is meant to be a clear roadmap so Trump can avoid making the mistakes that he made during his first presidential term, and Peter Thiel is also very concerned about this. Why would Iran leak this? Wouldn't they prefer Trump over Harris? I don't really think so. I mean, any administration is going to be anti-Iran. Though Donald Trump has been so oppositional, like he killed Soleimani, right? Trump is like militantly pro-Israel. I mean, I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to be like pro-Iran or anything, but yeah, Iran and Trump are very not in with each other. I think I've heard about this guy, but from a different source, Posadas John. It's suspected it's the Iranian government. Well, it would make sense. You know, anyone could do a hack, right? I wonder if this is going to lead to anything substantial outside of Ken Klippenstein being banned. Now, he's been promoting his Substack for a while, so hopefully he can fall back on that. No? Probably not, yeah. Vance's political evolution raises questions about the consistency of his views and the influences shaping his positions. They definitely prefer the Dems. Well, it's not... The problem with saying that Iran prefers the Dems is that the Republican narrative to that point is going to be that, like, Kamala Harris is weak on Iran or pro-Iran or something, when in reality it's just that Trump's foreign policy in the Middle East is so antagonistic and so destructive that it's to our mutual benefit that, like, everyone benefits Middle Eastern policy-wise from Kamala Harris being the victor there. America, Iran, everyone. What explains Trump's and Vance's anti-Ukraine rhetoric? They're pro-Russia. Fascists like other fascist governments, and Putin and the Kremlin have financed and have ties to a, you know, great many political causes here. They're not getting paid by Russia. It's not that simple. But there are definitely ties. I mean, Trump literally admitted to meeting with Putin recently, did he not? I don't remember. What was that, in the debate? Where he said, he said recently he went over to Putin, which is pretty wild thing to admit, but isn't Iran fascist? Why not like them? No, they're not really fascist. They're theocratic and authoritarian, but not necessarily fascist. They don't use the same types of rhetoric. They don't engage with the same types of, you know, sort of means to political action. No, he said he was with Orban, a different fascist. I think he said both. He said he spoke with Putin before Russia invaded. Which, yeah, is, you know, really does raise some eyebrows, doesn't it? The idea of someone who is not president meeting with a foreign leader who is antagonistic to the United States shortly before it began an invasion to a country allied to the United States. Isn't that a violation of the Logan Act? Everyone violates the Logan Act. I violate it every, I don't know, like, you know, 3-4 weeks. It's just everyone. No one cares. I violate the Logan Act every day. We got an achiever over here. What is the Logan Act? You can't do diplomacy on behalf of the United States if you're not a U.S. official who is allowed to do so. It basically is. It was a very, very, very early law, and the gist of it is basically like a guy named Logan it up. That's why it's called the Logan Act. This dumbass Logan is like, I think he went off and like made promises to France or something, but he wasn't authorized to do so. So he basically just went over there as a random dude and was like, yeah, America's gonna X and Y, and you're gonna X and Y. And then and back then, like, you know, confirming that that's true, you have to send a letter across the ocean. So, you know, Logan really ruined it for everyone, I'd say. Yeah, it was more recent, Subs and Soda. He pissed off Jefferson, who was the only guy allowed to talk to I mean, he was the diplomat. Elon just tweeted about Ken Klippenstein. That's crazy. Man's really moving on up in the world. Could my, like, Twitter load? Is that legal? Ben, you said Elon tweeted about Ken. You mean like a reply? It's Elon Musk. He tweets literally every 30 seconds. He has nothing else in his life. He literally nonstop. The left will eat their own so insanely fast if they're no longer politically useful. Seriously, blushing emoji. Insightful. Dude, he replies to Ian Miles Chong like non-stop. It's crazy. No one even likes Ian Miles Chong. Like, nobody does. Like, the right doesn't. Nobody takes him seriously. It's like exclusively Elon. Ben said he's getting a... Yeah, I know. I don't know why you feel the need to inform me. He tweeted it 3 hours ago. And yet you said he just tweeted it, Benjamin. This is one of the most egregious, evil doxing actions we've ever seen. Presidential candidates are not speculatively in danger. They have already made 2 attempts on Donald Trump's life. Moreover, the dox includes detailed information on the address of their children. I don't actually know if that's true. Twitter does not ban people for doxing as it is now. So this is like very obviously just banning Ken Klippenstein for showing leaked information that makes JD Vance look bad. Yeah, Elon said that it was, yeah, he said that tracking his private jet was providing assassination coordinates. So I don't know if he should be trusted on the word on who, like, is doxing who, you know? The use of evil doxing implies the existence of good doxing. That's libs of TikTok, is what he's referring to. 220. Let me see if I can't go to a page here that doesn't have any assassination coordinates on it. It's actually a pretty thorough write-up of his history and positions. He's pro-Russia, anti-Ukraine, very anti-Ukraine. It's going to be an interesting read seeing how the Trump team frames each issue. I have a feeling that this is going to go nowhere, you know? I have a feeling it's going to go absolutely nowhere. Like, the media is not going to cover it. And to be honest, like, a lot of this stuff isn't even embarrassing to JD Vance generally. It's embarrassing to JD Vance in the, like, 2 other right-wingers, you know? But right-wingers don't watch left-wing media, and the right-wing media isn't going to cover this. It's like too late. I mean, it's just like no one is the people who would be interested in the information are not going to be exposed to the information. Does mainstream media just not want to make Republicans look bad? This only makes JD Vance look bad to Republicans. But Republicans don't watch the news sites that would, under any circumstances, publish this. Like, a lot of the so-called embarrassing stuff here is that he wasn't very right-wing like 5-6 years ago during the first Trump term. What are they going to do with that? Like, all JD Vance has to say is, yeah, I've changed my mind. Like, you know, it's not going to hit. Put in a campaign ad and run it on Fox. What would they put in? They should attack Elon now, but media won't. I mean, I don't, that doesn't necessarily translate to JD Vance anyway. If anything, I think that Elon banning Ken Klippenstein is more interesting than the dossier itself. The thing that I'm waiting for is I want a Mark Robinson tier drop on JD Vance. We know for a fact JD Vance was friends with and in chat rooms with, like, young neo-Nazis. There is absolutely no chance that JD Vance doesn't have extremely compromising logs of him out there on, like, the forums or Discord or 4chan. Like, there's something there. There's absolutely no way that a guy went from, like, a relatively milquetoast technocrat conservative all the way over to a alt-right weirdo, tradcath, you know, Catholic convert. There's no way you reach that point without the intermediary including some, like, really fucked up drops. Why wasn't it the Trump talk? Well, presumably either because they didn't have it, and that's possible, like they're not omniscient, or because that's not the kind of information they're looking for. The timeline makes me wonder if he got sucked down a rabbit hole during lockdown like tons of people did. It seems like he was more Trump supportive in early 2020, so I think it wouldn't be a lockdown thing. I mean, maybe that contributed to it, but it seems like whatever the shift was, it happened over the course of the first Trump term. You think those logs will drop before the election? Why would you ask me a question like that? How the f should I know? I don't even know if they exist. I said they almost certainly exist, certainly. Do I think they'll drop? We're presuming that they exist? How would I know? I can't believe he's only 40. He was a governor, though? JD Vance? Am I, like, getting it completely twisted? Was he not a senator? Yeah, he was a senator. Yeah, I'm wrong. Okay, yeah. It's confusing me. How would a senator get, like, radical? It's easier than you might think. He's still a senator, though of course he's not, like, functionally acting as one. He's busy with other stuff right now. Yeah, that's true. The radicalization would have happened before. So many people have. Damn near every guy my age who used to lean left leans right now. It's terrifying. It's all men. You know? I really do think there was, like, a screenshot of a TikTok posted to Twitter that I agree with, and so much of it is just like dudes are lonely and kind of, like, I don't know, unfuckable. And conservatism and reactionary politics are a way to sort of force women to be complacent rather than having to put in any effort. Dudes are bitter as right now. Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty whiny. Congratulations, Kenneth. My brother called Charlie Kirk his hero. Jesus. I'm so lucky to not be, like, adjacent to this stuff, you know? I didn't exactly grow up with, like, a right-wing family or whatever, but it's remarkable, you know? It's genuinely remarkable how common it is.